We begin at the State House, where President Bola Tinubu has forwarded the names of 32 ambassadorial nominees to the Senate for confirmation, following an earlier submission of 3 nominees. The list includes 15 career ambassadors and 17 non-career ambassadors, with 4 women on the career list and 6 on the non-career list. Notable non-career nominees include former presidential aide to Jonathan Reno Omokri, former INEC Chairman Mahmood Yakubu, former governors Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi and Victor Okezie Ikpeazu, former ministers and ex-first ladies. Career ambassador nominees include Enebichi Monica Okuchukwu, Musa Abubakar, and Yvonne Innocent Oduma, among others. Confirmed nominees are expected to be posted to key international partners, including China, India, South Korea, Canada, and strategic multilateral missions such as the United Nations and African Union. Additional ambassadorial nominations are anticipated in the coming weeks. And now to discuss this, we're joined by CEO, TAF Africa, Epelle, and a public affairs analyst, Jide. And gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the news.
My pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
All right. So I start with Mr. Epelle. Now, a previous guest suggested that the nomination exercise came late and was triggered by President Trump's recent comments rather than internal planning. So how would you respond to that?
You can argue with that. It's practically influenced by President Trump's threat, and it shouldn't be. However, this is a very interesting nominees. Many of them tends to be a person of political interest. I am taken aback by some of the individuals that I saw on the list. One of them and several of them being Mahmood Yakubu. And I mean, my good friend Mahmood Yakubu, I thought by now he should just go and rest and enjoy the all the money he made as INEC Chairman his salary, of course, and the exposure and all that, and just go and rest or go and teach in the university. But it appears that he's still interested in political office, so he got this appointment. It looks to me like political tokenism, a reward for his job well done in 2023. This is one appointment I would have asked the president to distance himself from, but it looks like it's a favor, a political favor for whatever job he did. I wasn't surprised when he got a national honor, and now he's getting an ambassadorial appointment. Another person is Reno, with all that he did with P2B and all that, can we say that this is also a reward for all the international awareness that he gave to issues around P2B? And of course, we also have Fanika. It's a mixed bag of political person of interest and the career diplomats. But there's a good thing, a flip side of it is that 10 women got this appointment, which is a good thing. But I'm surprised that also a person with disability wasn't given the opportunity. We have many of them that are very qualified. In fact, we have to charge their affairs in Sao Tome, who is a totally blind individual with in that position. I think they should have elevated Chris to the position of an ambassador.
Okay, all right. Let's take Mr. Jide response to this. Now, the list features former governors, ministers, lawmakers, other political figures, just as Mr. Epelle had said, prompting claims that this is more or less like a political payback rather than having to appoint technocrats for this position. Now, do you have any concerns about any of the nominees?
Do I have any question about what?
Any of the nominees or these appointments?
Well, not necessarily. Perhaps the only concern I will have is those who are under corruption investigation who have been nominated. Perhaps maybe their trial at the court should have been allowed to be concluded before you can nominate, because if somebody is still standing trial for corruption or for certain abuse of office, and then you appoint such a person as ambassador, then you have tied the hands of the court, because the court will now be taking judicial notice that this person is very close to the powers that be, and as such may not be able to do what is expected of it. But be that as it may, you know, every ambassadorial appointment, there are two categories: the career diplomats and non-career diplomats, and it's always been like this, a kind of compensation for politically exposed persons, those who lost elections. In this list, we saw wives of former governor, like that of Ekiti and Oyo State. We've seen those who lost election in Enugu, Ifeanyi, Ugwuanyi, and Okezie, Ikpeazu of Abia State. My own take about Mahmood Yakubu, say what you like, is within the discretion of the president to appoint him. Not just that, for whatever anybody says, we've seen that in the last dispensation, the former INEC Chairman, Professor Jide, was similarly appointed by this administration, this president, in certain capacity, which eventually, I think one of the committees he chaired, eventually led to the recommendation for the establishment of livestock, Ministry of Livestock Development. So he has not been indicted by any court. Whatever anybody says about whether he fixed the 2023 election for somebody, if INEC erred as the chief returning officer, if actually he committed a fraud, it behoves the judiciary to have corrected that and do the right thing. And in as much as the judiciary has affirmed that the election was rightly conducted and there was no issue with the election, whatever opinion you and I hold is basically our own opinion. It does not stand the legal scrutiny. Okay. And it's within the prerogative of the president to do. But let me add this. If peradventure any of these 35 nominees, because there are now 35 nominees, remember 3 were previously appointed last week, or was it last week or early this week, before this 32? It is not for the Senate to do the needful. If any of them is found unworthy, then it can, that he or she can be dropped. It's not the final bus stop because president has appointed you. We've seen ministerial nominees that were dropped by the Senate in the last dispensation when the ministerial nominee was screened. Okay. So it is also not here rule for these nominees. The Senate of the Federal Republic, if they actually want to demonstrate that they are independent, they can actually refuse to confirm any of the nominees.
Okay. Now, Mr. Epelle, do you trust the Nigerian Senate? Do you trust the Nigerian Senate to do due diligence in weeding out those who might have reputational issues and might create problems rather than solutions for Nigeria and its image?
I'm sure you know what my answer will be. I am a little bit passive, if not indifferent, in the capacity, the ability, not the capacity, the ability of Senate to do the needful. I will not be surprised if we see rubber stamping of this screening. The Senate president is always in his character to do whatever pleases Aso Rock. But let me pay attention to some of the things that my good friend Jide has said and the implication. Whenever you have any politically exposed individual gain appointment as an ambassador, it has a ripple effect. If that person profile is in doubt, if there is any domestic investigation or issues that person is carrying into that appointment, the country that he's going to will be too careful to deal with that individual. That's the diplomatic implication. Take for instance, Mr. Joe's analysis, like all of us on TV, we have our own individual opinion. Whether anybody likes it or not, I don't think many people know that Mahmood is my friend, just even closer than some of the people that are saying one thing or the other. But the fact that we are friends does not mean I can't look him in the eye and tell him the truth. That election was not well organized. INEC did not play the role that it ought to play. It doesn't matter what the court says. That is the truth that many of us know, and those who are refusing to acknowledge that are ignoring it and suppressing it. You know, I know my organization were at the front. We spent huge resources in inclusivity, and we didn't get much out of it. Okay. The IRF didn't work. And all that. So for anybody to claim that Mahmood did a good job in 2023, he did not. And that will haunt him. If he goes to a particular country, that will haunt him. Please, for anyone who is listening to me, go through diplomatic route. Check how diplomacy plays out at the international community. You would haunt him. There are countries that would treat him with a pinch of salt. Trust me on that.
Well, I'm just looking at a scenario where the ex-INEC boss would probably be the ambassador, Nigeria, US. I don't know how that will play out. But then let's leave that and just focus on this, Mr. Ojo. Nigeria's relationship with the United States has faced strained, situations recently, similar to what we've seen with South Africa. How important is it for Nigeria to reset that relationship, especially with a new set of ambassadors coming in?
It all depends on who is sent there as the ambassador. You see, a lot of politicians, non-career diplomats that are on that list. If you watch the civic space, the social media, there have been allegations of one thing or the other against some of them. We do not know for a fact who will go to US, but suffice to say that I have been one of those who advocated long time in my column in The Punch. I've asked that this has become too long delayed to happen. We need to have ambassadors in place. And sincerely speaking, if you follow News Lekon, you will have heard that this list was ready since January or thereabout. Names of people like Reno Omokri, it's been there. People have leaked that to the press. But whatever made the president to dilly-dally on sending that list to the National Assembly, I wouldn't know. So, answering your question more pointedly, even as far as we don't know who yet will be posted to US, we cannot say for a fact what kind of finesse or knowledge or skills that person will carry within or add to the US. But I think it's a good thing. The president is walking the talk. Just yesterday or 2 days ago, he set up a US-Nigeria war joint committee to work out
Right.
Like I said, if our institutions are really working, whoever has a baggage on his or her name should be dropped at the level of screening. We saw that with the ministerial screening. I still maintain. If anybody has reputational issue, if there are issues with corruption allegations, abuse of office, if we have an independent institutions like the Senate, they can drop, it's not the final bus stop, they can drop whoever has reputational or issues with their credibility. And if they fail to do that, it's a collective indictment on all of us.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Jide Ojo and Mr. Jack Epelle. It was nice having you, of course, talk to us on the news. Thank you.